Yeah, what was that like first thing this morning when you all arrived at the training? I presume you didn't have them in for training yesterday, so when you first met them, sort of like the morning after the night before?
I'll just give you some context on my, obviously, ruins your night. My daughter would come up from London to see us and go out for some dinner. Ruins that. My missus says to me, "You're not with us, are you? Saturday night, which you're not. You're in too much pain." So, it ruins your weekend. Then Sunday morning I got up early, watched the game back. I needed to make sure I put together something to show how bad we was, show what the lack of what I talked about with you guys after. It was only a 6-minute video. I know it could have been a 96-minute video, but it was only a 6-minute video because you clip the bits that really show it. There's no need to go any more than that, both with and without the ball. So we did that this morning. And then you need to obviously show them, talk to them, everybody. And my talk this morning was about not being an us and them. We're all in it together, me included. None of us have done what we should have done on Saturday. None of us have got it right, and we've all got to respond to that. And at the end of talking to even players, whether players want to get away and play somewhere else because they're not getting any game time, when you're here and you're with us, we've all put this club in this situation. We've all got to work together to get this club out of this situation. So the point of the meeting was A, to show, and then B, to say, right, let's go forward, let's get a reaction. You can't just bury them every time because they'll be going into tomorrow's game lower than Snake's bellies. And then you set about the phase 3 of it, which is to go out on the training field and make sure there's total clarity on what's coming, what we've got to do, how we do it. And that's what we've done this morning.
Is it to start off with a very quiet meeting where they're like pupils at school, I suppose, and they all sit there very quietly listening to what they said, and you say, has anyone got any questions? Everyone keeps quiet and sort of shirks away in the background.
I think one thing I always say is, whenever I do a video, I try not to single out anyone individually. It's about us as a group and what we don't do. And so that's what I said at the start. This is about learning from this and getting a reaction. So, I go to the captain first. I went to Len first and just said, thoughts. And listen, there's nothing anyone can say. It's not good enough. But when I show the video, I don't just presume they know what I'm looking at. I actually commentate, and I'll, there you go. Look at the intensity we're pressing with. Look at 3 players there doing nothing. Look at 3 players behind them doing nothing. No one's talking. No one's getting tight. Look, that's the first time in 90 seconds someone lays a glove on them. And it's that sort of information that to show them how passive we were, to show them how lack of intent we were, which is what we said afterwards. But ultimately, and again, I won't hide, my job is to make my team play really, really well. And I didn't on Saturday. So my hand's up as well.
And when you're doing this with the players, are you also wary that you can't just nail them because you don't want them then to step out on the pitch tomorrow night just full of fear for making a mistake? And
that's the thing, that everything we did today was just about what we didn't do Saturday and how it looks. And going forward, that was the next part, which was out on the training field. And it's the tone I do it in. I'm not ripping into everybody. I'm showing them. We're talking through it. I'm saying we've got to do this together. Everyone is responsible for putting this back. And I also went through, I think before I arrived we had 0.4 points per game. Since I've arrived it's 1.25. So that's triple. But that's only 58 points a season if you average it out. It's still got to be better. We've still got a bit. And what comes underneath that with the expected goals for, expected goals against, that's still not where it should be. So ultimately we're never going to pick up and really drive ourselves away from it until we start getting them things right, and them things are part of performance mechanisms.
So we then look ahead to tomorrow night. You're still again working with your hands tied behind your back because of the availability of certain players, aren't you? So even if you wanted to make lots of changes, I'm not 100% sure you can do, can you?
Possibly not. There's 1 or 2 that will be, haven't had game time lately, that will be saying, give me a try, and I always say to them, make sure, like Scott Burgess did before he got back in, make sure you're catching my eye in training so that when that time comes you're ready. So there will be changes, I'm sure of that, but there'll be changes within what we've got. Again, going back to the recruitment side, we're working so hard, we're watching so many players. The issue you have now, you're going into Christmas, and if you've got a player who lives down south and you want to bring him up north and he's just bought a new house with his missus down south, the last thing they want to do is be up north when Christmas time comes around. Normally you get that reset in January where everyone goes, right, now's the time the merry-go-round starts. But we're working. Anyone we bring in permanently has got to be a good player. Will Davis, we're confident will be a very, very good player for this club. So we're trying to find that balance to improve, but be right going forward for the club.
Because the temptation surely is there for you. Think, well, we need players. I think you'll be all right, but you need to get it right, don't you? You can't. There's no point rushing it.
No, if you think we need a player, we like him, we think he'll give us something, and it can be a loan, then there's no sort of real, tie to that situation. It might be a loan that you go, he's brilliant, we'll extend him. But generally, if we're going to find big game changers, we've got to get them right.
It sounds to me then you're not going to have anyone in town for tomorrow night.
No, I doubt it very much.
Okay, well, weekend maybe?
We'll see. There is one or two we've inquired about, but it's also, when you inquire about players, the club's got to want to let them go, the players got to then want to come, then you've got to start negotiations, and it doesn't happen overnight.
Who's not available for you tomorrow? I'm thinking of the guys potentially that came off Alex at the weekend and the like.
So Will Smith is obviously a doubt. We're just getting some feedback on his knee and getting it looked at. It was a bit sore this morning. Woody was okay actually after the game. We was worried there was concussion there, but it wasn't. It was a ball got him straight in the face, and he just had a bit of blurred vision. But he was fine straight after the game. We've done the tests and he was fine. So Woody's potentially open to selection. Paddy's Achilles was sore. We've got a few niggles. Castro's not been well. He's had a touch of the flu-like symptoms. So they're all things we've got to assess.
And you're coming up against a side in Oxford City that I'm presuming, so correct me if I'm wrong, that you maybe don't know as much about Oxford City or about their manager than you do about lots of the other teams in the National League. You've talked about Andy Woodman at Bromley, and we know how Barnet play, and we know how all these other teams play. Is it slightly different with Oxford City because it's not a normal opponent at this level of football?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I know Justin, who's like their director of football there. I know him well, and we had quite a good connection with him at Solihull. So I do know about them, and I did support them. There's a couple of their players I was interested in the summer, so I know they've got very good players. And they've changed their system a couple of times because they've had some injuries. There was one or two very good players that weren't involved on Saturday, but they still managed to get a brilliant result and well-deserved result against Ebbsfleet. I think they're one of these teams, I know they're down the bottom, but on their day, as you've seen, they beat Woking, they beat Ebbsfleet 4. They should have beaten Solihull when they played them comfortably at Solihull's place. So I think they're one of them teams, if you get it wrong against them, they'll cause you all sorts of problems. So our focus today has been making sure we don't get a repeat, certainly of the disjointedness that we had on Saturday. But obviously we've got to raise all of our levels and make sure that whatever happens at the end of the game, our fans come off saying our team's had a right go today.
Yeah, because they're a side really that have not got too much pressure on them. The part-time, people won't be expecting them to be higher up the division than what they are. All the pressure is on York City and whoever their opponents are most weeks.
Yeah, I mean their budget won't be huge, they'll be part-time, but I mean they've got good players who live in the Oxford area, who probably end up working alongside their training and earning decent, but they've got some good players, so I'm not going to, Parker, Ashby, I know they've been out McEachran, these are very, very good players that most clubs would be interested in having, but they probably won't prime away from Oxford because of geographical reasons. So, with where we are, there's not any games in our league where we're going to look at and go, that should be 3 points, because we're the sort of team that other teams are going to be saying that against at the moment, and we've got to, I've told you this before, we've got to raise our consistency levels, because we played Fylde, and then I said, can we back it up, let's not get carried away, and we did for 45 minutes in the cup game, but the second 45 we nearly fell apart, and then we didn't the third game. We've got to be more consistent, and I take full responsibility for that. That is down to me, and I can't work any harder than I am. I've been in a situation where I know where players are struggling with anxiety, they're struggling with confidence, and it's only results that really pick that up. But I think Saturday was our first loss in 4, probably something like that. But it was the way we lost that really riled everybody in such a big game when the fans were feeling so good. We've sent them all home as deflated as I was.
Yeah, you came on the radio, you apologised virtually immediately, I think, your first answer. I know you went across to the supporters as well at the end on Saturday. How important then is it the team try and make up that bridge between the team and the supporters by getting off to a decent start tomorrow? Because they're going to come here tomorrow night, lots of York City supporters, with Saturday still fresh in their minds.
Yeah, and I think, listen, I could say we're just going to come out, throw caution to the wind, go hell for leather, and be on top right from minute one. It's not going to happen. We've got to make sure it's all about the points. With where we are on the table, it's all about the points. So when we press, we've got to be good at pressing. When we don't press, we've got to be structured in the way we do things. And you know, we're all desperate. I care. The players didn't look like they did on Saturday, but you know, having had conversations and worked on it, they need actions now need to be stronger than words. And you know, if we come off however we've done it with a win on Tuesday night, I think everybody will take the points at the moment ahead of anything else.
Because I keep hearing it, I keep reading it. York City, once they get to the middle of the season to Christmas time, they'll get out of this what so-called relegation battle. They're too good to go down. We've heard it all before.
Yeah, just you've got to get a lot of things right, and you know, not an excuse. There's a lot of things wrong, both with the culture, the setup, the fitness, the training. Everything was needed to be addressed, and we've got a shed load of players, as you know, and we've got to get all of these things right. And we're working really hard on it. But I was embarrassed Saturday. It hurt me. I don't ever try and come and do smokes and mirrors in the press and say, oh well this, oh well that. You know, if we're poor, I'll say we're poor, and I'll have to take responsibility for that, because ultimately my job's to inspire the players to be better than poor, and I didn't on Saturday.
Thank you.
Neil, first of all, you've gone from probably one of the best performances of the season the way it failed last Saturday, and in the space of 7 days, probably one of the worst performances of the season at Hartlepool. What's gone wrong? If
you had an emoji, you go like that, don't you? And that's what I said after the game when we spoke in the press. I just said, it's all very well having one total 90-minute performance where we get everything right. We've then got to back it up in different scenarios under different stresses. I thought we did a good first half against Chester, but struggled in the second half. And then we've taken that into Saturday's game, where we were as disjointed as a team can be. You know, it looked like the opposition had two extra players on the pitch. So, you know, it's a shrug of the shoulders. My job's to go, okay, what did we do wrong on Saturday? I'll replicate it. But I mentioned in the press after, you know, we didn't train well on Friday in our prep, and I've had that with teams before where you kind of have to brush Friday under the carpet and then they raise it on Saturday, but we didn't.
And given that performance on Saturday, is it a case now of making some changes, or are you looking to stick with the players that you've got at the moment and give them another chance?
Both. So I know it sounds a strange answer, both, but you know, you don't just go, right, them 11 are out, let's get a new 11 in. There will be some, and there might be some in the way we approach the game and the shape and whatever, but you've got to freshen it up. You've got to look at, you know, what qualities you want from the game, who you're playing against, who you trust, all these kind of things. So there will be some, but whatever team we put out, I've got to play like a team.
And you knew this was going to be a difficult job, but just how difficult of a job is it turned out to be for you at the moment?
It's tough. Listen, you know, very rarely does ever a manager walk into a job where everything's perfect and he doesn't have to do anything. I'm enjoying the challenge. Like I say, you know, I don't think I'm a magician. I don't think I can just all of a sudden wave a wand and we're going to be the best team in the league. And anyone that thought that when I came in doesn't understand football. There's a lot to do, and a lot to do off the pitch, and it's the off the pitch stuff's taking up a lot of my time. But I've got to try and make sure we address the results while we're trying to get the off the pitch stuff. The off the pitch is the long term stuff, but I've got to make sure the short term's right, or I'll never get to see the long term. So I'm enjoying it. I love York. And it's not easy to say after I've let them down on Saturday, but I love the fans. I love the atmosphere they create. I love the way that they've got behind the team. It could be a brilliant, brilliant club, but I knew when I took it that I was going to have to roll my sleeves up for 6 months and dig in and find a way of getting us out of the mess before we could make it better.
And you went over to apologise to the fans on Saturday. I think the only real solution now, no matter what the performance is like, is to get them 3 points tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I've always tried to work off of performance brings results. Focus on the performance, the results will come. But you know, there's no getting away from the fact we need points. And we need to do, but it's about doing the basics that get you the points, and we didn't do any of them on Saturday.
And you fell to a side with just one win in the last 10 prior to Saturday's game. So how do you prepare to face a side that have just won 2 on the bounce and scored 7 goals?
Yeah, you have to focus on I Oxford City get my total respect. Manager's done a brilliant job. I know the people there, I know the way they run the club. Really good players, really good club. I'm not going into this expecting anything other than a tough game, especially when your team's performed how they did on Saturday. And we've got to find a way of, putting in a miles better performance and trying to get a result. So I've got to focus on us. If we play like we did on Saturday, we wouldn't beat an under-12 team. So we've got to make sure that whatever team we're playing against, we do all of our basics right, and that gives us a chance to pick up a result regardless of how you play.
I'm back in train today after that result on Saturday. What's the atmosphere like, and do you expect a response tomorrow from that?
The atmosphere was one solemn, because the players know. They know what they've done and when they don't. Then you show them. Like I said, do a video, we show them. And then you've got to try and pick them up. You can't take them into tomorrow's game lower than snake's bellies. You have to pick them up, you have to give them clarity. So I've tried to do all three stages of showing the video, having a good talk with them, going around individual players, and then trying to nail the prep for the game to lift them, to get them ready and give them the clarity. And that's what I hope I'll get from the team tomorrow.
Will Davis has come in just before the Hartlepool game. He's come on, I think he's done what he can, he's run hard and everything. What do you make of him from that, and can he push for a start soon?
Absolutely, yeah. Listen, I know what I'm getting with Will, so I know what he's going to bring. It's funny, I actually had somebody ring me Sunday, said, where did you pop up signing Will Davis from? And started talking about it, and they said, oh, he's been on our radar for a while, and several people have said they think he's good enough to play in the league. So let's hope they're right, because we think we've got a really good player. And like I said before, if we're going to bring someone in, it needs to be someone we want to work with for the next season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and we'll certainly know.
And you've touched on a few injuries there, but one player that I've not talked about recently, Adam Crooks, how was he doing?
Crooks, he's had to go for a scan on his hamstring, so he keeps trying to get back to training, but then it's niggling, and we've decided let's just find out if there's anything that's holding him back, or whether it's neural. So, as with all our injuries, we've had so many players that keep coming back, breaking down. We've had to take the longer period to try and make sure that stops happening.
And finally, as a manager, just how much does it mean to go and create success here at York City?
Massive. I mean, the remit for me is keep us up this season, which will be a success because we know we're in a tough spot, and then get a summer and take us forward. 3 of my last 4 seasons have been playoff finals and playoffs. That's where I want to be. That's the more enjoyable end. That's the more enjoyable pressure. So that's what I want to do for this club, because fans deserve it. They've had a tough time.
Thanks and good luck.
Under the lights tomorrow, different atmosphere, smaller attendance possibly. Are you pleased it's come as quickly as it has?
Yeah, when you lose games, I think you always want the next game to come quickly, because it can be a long week hanging on to that loss. So, we've got a chance of getting out of our system, but we need to make sure we react to do so.
FA Trophy draw this afternoon, still in the FA Cup. In the position you presently are, is that a distraction to concentrating on the league? Or are you okay with that?
I think if we're still in the FA Cup, then we've won some games of football, and all you ever want to do is win games of football. I think the FA Cup can give a great feeling to the fans, to the players, can do a great buzz. We didn't get that response on Saturday after winning midweek, but certainly that Wigan game's one to look forward to. But we will be parking the Wigan game till well after the Maidenhead game. Winning's a habit. Whichever competition it is, you've got to keep trying to win to create them habits. But the league absolutely is our priority.
Dipo Akinyemi, not back to quite how he was. Does that mean he's not fully fit yet?
I think it's difficult. Dipo had an interrupted pre-season where he got injured, couldn't play in games because of the international transfer, got himself fit in games at the start of the season, but probably similar to myself as a player, wasn't naturally clear-winded. Fit player has to work hard at his fitness, so it's difficult because I expect my forwards to run hard and be very dynamic, and Dipo is an exceptionally dynamic player, but we've also got to get him so that he's in a place where he can do that for 90 minutes. So we know what a threat he can be, but we've got to get him back to his best, and he's got to fight hard for the team and make sure the team comes before anything else, and that's what they all need to do. But we can't keep just relying on Dipo as the only player that's going to make things happen. Everyone has to take responsibility for scoring and not conceding.